call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is an open meeting of the Seward, Nebraska governing body. The city of Seward abides by the Nebraska Open Meetings Act in conducting business. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is displayed on the north wall of this meeting room facility as required. Disclosure of meeting recording process is posted in the meeting room. A participant sign-in sheet is available for use by any citizen addressing the council. Presenters shall approach the podium, say their name and address for the clerk's record, and are asked to limit remarks to 5 minutes. All remarks shall be directed to the mayor, who shall determine by whom any appropriate response shall be made. The city of Seward reserves the right to adjust the order of items on this agenda if necessary, and may elect to take action on any of the items listed. Please call the roll.
Wilkins.
Present.
Back. Here. Camper.
Here.
Alderman.
Mostly.
Here.
Miller. Singleton.
Here.
Schmidt.
Here.
Hendricks.
Here.
First item this evening is consideration of approval of minutes of June 4th, 2019.
Move for approval.
Second. A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor. Wilkins. Back. Camper. Alderman. Singleton. Schmidt. Hendricks. Motion carried.
Items 2 through 7 are the consent agenda items this evening.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor. Wilkins. Back. Camper. Alderman. Singleton. Schmidt. Hendricks. Motion carried.
Item number 8 is confirmation of mayor's appointments to various boards and commissions. Item 8A is the appointment of Brett Watkin to the Park and Recreation Board for a 3-year term to replace Lana Urbine.
Move to approve.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor. Wilkins. Back. Camper. Alderman. Singleton. Schmidt. Hendricks. Motion carried.
Item 8B is the appointment of Thomas Seward to the Tree Board for a 3-year term to replace Matt Streisand.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor. Wilkins. Back. Camper. Alderman. Singleton. Schmidt. Hendricks. Motion carried.
Item 8C is the reappointment of Ronald Wallman to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a 3-year term.
Move approved.
Second. Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor. Wilkins. Back. Camper. Alderman. Singleton. Schmidt. Hendricks. Motion carried.
Item 9 is consideration of naming the city park located in the Fairway Woods development as Tim Wake Memorial Park. Greg.
Yes, as we went back and developed the Fairway Woods development and discussed essentially the generous gift that went above and beyond what we normally require for parkland, one of the things that was discussed, but they weren't ready to make a recommendation onto the city as a potential option for your consideration, was what to name this new park. You guys would remember better than I would the last time we had a new park dedicated and named, and so we were kind of remiss in the process, but we noted that we had circled back with the developers and also the initial property owners, which was the Wake family, in regards to this item. We sat down and talked with them, and so the initial recommendation for the park itself was to name the park after Timothy Wake, in regards to, I think he was born in the house that was originally on the Fairway Woods property. He's been known to Seward for quite a long time. And then Tim also overcame, I believe he had cerebral palsy. And so throughout his life, he tried to work to overcome those setbacks and challenges to go on to be successful in working, I believe, in ranching and doing other things. But he had connections back to Seward throughout his life, and he recently passed away in the last year or so. And so that was the request by both the Wake family and the developers of Fairway Woods. And so that was the request that we have before you tonight. We have it under just a specific motion. That's how we handled the golf course, parade of flags, and other items we looked up. So we think this is appropriate if you so choose to do so.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilkenbeck, Catholic, Coleman, Singleton, Schmidt, Hendricks, motion carried.
Item 10 is consideration of naming the trail section located in the Fairway Woods development as the Dick Odell Memorial Trail. Greg?
Same thing as we were having a discussion about, the naming of the park. There's also a segment within the park that runs through the trees that is a trail. Not a trail as we refer to as what we call generally the bike trail, or the trail that will ultimately encompass the entire city when completed. But this is a portion of a trail segment, and it was requested also by the developers, the Wake family, and then also by the Odell family, to name that segment of the trail the Dick Odell Memorial Trail in recognition of Dick Odell's contributions to the community, support of bike trails, and then also Dick Odell was involved in concrete work and things like that throughout his career, and so a fitting memorial to kind of relate back to the things that he did. We spoke with his wife, and there's also going to be a gift and a contribution made towards some of the equipment that will actually end up ultimately in Fairway Woods Park, or now the Tim Wake Memorial Park. So there'll be some equipment that's going to be donated and some funds as a memorial for him, I believe. As we move into the next phase in the fall, and we budget, and we add more things like, I think there'll be some entryway features. There'll be bike racks and other things that will be added, but that will be in the next budget since we didn't get the grant that we applied for. And so, but the request was to name the trail after Dick Odell.
Questions? We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilkenbeck, Catholic, Coleman, Singleton, Schmidt, Hendricks, motion carried.
Next, item 11, consideration of a request from Corey Hackbart for a house moving permit to move a garage to 57 Ash Street. Did you want to do this, Greg?
I'm gonna take this one. I'm Ed tonight. We received the application. It's included. You got a fancy picture there, but it's included in your packet. Corey Hackbart is requesting the movement of this structure onto 57 Ash Street. Ed reviewed the application, looked at all the pertinent information. Not terribly much of a big issue in regards to height, which is a big issue for us on the utility side. So with a 4-foot increase, it's not going to be a height issue in bringing it in on a flatbed or whatever else. So Ed had no issues, no complaints, no things that we need to be concerned about in moving into the property. I can answer any other questions if you have any.
Yeah, any questions?
Move approved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilkenbeck, Catholic, Coleman, Singleton, Schmidt, Hendricks, motion carried.
Thank you. Item 12, consideration of an ordinance amending setback restrictions for fireworks stands. Greg?
Yes, this was a request that came in pursuant to a meeting I had with Tyson Horn. It was brought to our attention that, as you may well remember, a number of years ago before Fastmart redeveloped, they would have by the 4th of July a fireworks stand off to the north in their parking lot area. We had a 100-foot restriction back then that they had no issue with getting that from the pumps and the containers for the fuel. They abandoned doing that for a few years so that they could do the redevelopment of Fastmart, so construction was going on, concrete work and all this other stuff. So they decided it wasn't a good time to have it going. They came back this year after the construction was done, everything's ready to go now, and they went to go measure, and they went, we can't meet that 100-foot restriction anymore. And so Tyson tried to find ways to work around it. It didn't work. Also at the time was inquiring about, where did the 100 feet come from? In his investigation, he talked to State Fire Marshal's office, and the State Fire Marshal said, well, we're not sure where it came from, but our updated regulations are 75 feet. And that's what we measure for, and we look for and come out and inspect for. And so we looked that up ourselves, got the citation to the most recent rules and regs from the State Fire Marshal's Department. And in fact, as I included in your packet, there's a copy of those that I've highlighted. It is 75 feet. And so we brought forward the request. Tyson's here. Rich is also here from Fastmart. if you wanna ask some specific questions about the request, but they both were in favor of having us at least consider this tonight.
Yeah, either one of you wanna say anything, or,
No, I'm
okay?
supporting this, supporting Tyson here, like,
Well, and I had asked Greg to reach out to you as well, just
Yeah.
because, we wanna make sure that you're of course comfortable with this at either distance. So in case you didn't want him there, we could be the bad guy and tell him no.
Well, no.
So, we're glad that you're here, we're glad that you support this. Is there any questions from the council? Someone, I entertain a
So we
motion.
got,
Or, I'm sorry,
introduce
ordinance.
the ordinance?
Yeah. An ordinance to amend the municipal code of the city of Seward, chapter 248 firearms and explosives, article 2, to reduce the distance between the firework vendor and gasoline storage or pumps, to repeal all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict, to provide for an effective date, to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form. The ordinance has been read by title and is designated as ordinance number 2019-18, and the title is hereby approved. I need a motion to dispense with statutory rule.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Linda Bear, Wolfenbeck, Counter, Colderman, Singleton, Schmidt, Hendricks, motion carried.
Again, this is ordinance number 2019-18. Would anyone like to move that this ordinance be passed and adopted as read?
Second?
A motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, again, the question is, shall ordinance number 2019-18 be finally passed and adopted? Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Linda Bear, Wolfenbeck, Counter, Colderman, Singleton, Schmidt, Hendricks, motion carried.
Alright, thank you. Item 13, consideration of an ordinance auctioning the house located at 246 North Third Street, north of Volunteer Fire Station. Greg?
Ordinance drafted by, City Attorney Kelly Hofschneider to sell the property that we purchased that contains, the home, and it will be only the real property, not the real property, the personal property, which is the home, and only the home. The accessory buildings will stay for now. And so this gives a July 19th, 2019, 10 a.m. deadline upon which we will have an auction at the courthouse. And then they will be given 45 days to remove the property. Basically what we thought was give them 2 weeks to get things kind of lined up, set up, and then they have an additional 30 days to get it off. They probably want to do their due diligence in regards to the costs associated with moving it. I checked in with Councilman Singleton today because he's kind of been spearheading this on behalf of the fire department. And our utilities, when we brought up the ordinance, the electric utility was really concerned because they had not been contacted about anyone being interested in moving the structure. Larry Ruther, superintendent for the electric department, went out and measured it to height, and at its peak, it's approximately exactly 30 feet, give or take, a little bit, maybe a little bit more. At the point, then you have to bring it up 4 feet to load it, so that puts it at 34 feet. And so after I got a hold of Councilman Singleton, he was able to give us at least one of the interested buyers that he had talked to previously, the potential route they were looking at, which is come straight to the south, get on 34 and head out east. And so Larry went back and tried to estimate his utility heights. And he has only one line that he'll be able to potentially raise out of 5 different ones. The rest will have to be deactivated and laid down at considerable man hours and cost. And so somebody needs to, if they're really interested, call up the utilities and get an actual quantification because no one's done it yet. And I don't know that you want to wait till the last minute or figure that out after you've already made a bid on it. And based on the way we wrote it, it's still yours. So we don't want to have it sitting around because it's not fair to the fire department either if no one can move this thing and they can't do it financially. So people need to follow up with the utilities. We probably also, just due to the nature of the canopy on the right-of-way trees, there's going to be significant need to trim those back, at least on the block that the fire department's on. Those are pretty heavy right now. Those costs will be associated with getting it out of there. And then there's the cost associated with contacting all the other utilities that are on those poles and having them lay their lines down, which is a whole nother separate cost that they'll charge for. So highway closure, police escort, closings, all that stuff. So we gotta figure all those things out, so we just wanna make sure whoever the buyers are, they need to start doing their due diligence probably now to make sure they know if they wanna go make a bid on this thing come, July 19th.
Also on that, their rigs that they use now are airlift, and they'll be able to lower it down. They won't have the big tires like normal, they'll lower the house. So, they might get by, cause Scrib also looked at it too.
We have, we have one, well, at Crooked Mile on Highway 34, I think, that one's really low, 25.7, so with a 30-foot structure.
I assume the house is in decent shape, that
Oh, yeah.
somebody would want to buy it possibly if they could get through all these hoops.
Yeah, if it doesn't come to life, then we'll do the second route, which we don't wanna do. We're hoping that somebody.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Chris?
And we're gonna be advertising this in the,
Yep, it gets advertised, I think, pursuant to the ordinance 3 times.
okay.
And do
Independent.
those pickups get put in that write-up as far as like,
It's just part of our permit process for removal of,
Yeah, the notice specifies that it's to be removed by a buyer at buyer's sole expense.
okay.
So, that'll be in the notice.
we will let anyone know, we're not subsidizing any of the costs, you just gotta pay for it, so. The due diligence of people should be, if they're interested in this, once this gets posted, come talk to the utilities, talk to Spectrum, talk to Windstream.
And it requires a permit, and obviously, so, assuming they don't wait till the last minute to get the permit, there should be conversations taking place leading up to that if they're serious about it.
Cause we don't wanna drag it out to 45 days after they buy it at auction, and then they go, yeah, we can't do this, cause that's just not even fair to the fire department, we could've done Route 2, and been 45 days sooner on that process.
Does it specify what they have to do with it if, after they buy it, they find out they can't afford to move it? Then what do they do with it?
They own the property, they have so much time to remove it. And then there would be.
But if they can't remove it?
Plan B.
Well, at that point, if they've bought it, I mean, our option would be is, we would probably go litigation route to compel them to remove the property,
Right. Right,
yeah.
okay.
So they're either gonna demo it, or you're gonna get rid of it somehow.
One way or the other.
Call the fire department to burn it.
Midnight bonfire. Okay.
Buyer beware.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, just someone like to introduce the ordinance.
I'll introduce the ordinance.
An ordinance to direct the sale of real estate or personal property pursuant to Seward Municipal Code, Section 340-1.2, to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form, to provide for a time when this ordinance shall take effect. The ordinance has been read by title and is designated as ordinance number 2019-19, and the title is hereby approved. And a motion to dispense with the statutory rule.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, is further discussion. Seeing none, please register your votes, please display the votes.
Voting in favor, welcome back, Counselor Coleman, Singleton, Schmidt, Hendricks, motion carried.
Again, this is ordinance number 2019-19, we would like to move this ordinance be passed and adopted as read.
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, is there further discussion? Seeing none, again, the question is, shall ordinance number 2019-19 be finally passed and adopted? Please register your votes, please display register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, welcome back, Counselor Coleman,
sleepy on
Singleton,
this
Schmidt,
side.
Hendricks, motion carried.
All right, next item, 14, consideration of an ordinance amending the comprehensive pay plan, pay steps for the electric department and summer seasonal labor.
Basically 2 items here relate back to December and January of this year and just getting those settled out. We'll start with the electric department. As you may remember, back in December, we decided to become more competitive in the general market that we play in regards to recruiting and retaining employees in the electric department. We were the only comparable city that operates their own utility, that only had 1 tier lineman worker. So our base level person is on the same exact line as the person that's been here 23 years, trained up, not trained up, everything else. And so we went and worked with the Personnel, Finance and Audit Committee and came up with a tiering, so now we have first-class lineman and journeyman lineman. Journeyman lineman, as the job description requires, has very specific requirements that are involved, training over a number of years, approximately about 5 years of training, based on the R program. You receive your journeyman certificate, and then you're eligible to move up. We also had to do some sliding scale with the line crew chief and then also the superintendent, because that journeyman lineman outpaced their pay. And so they were paid less than that position, so we realigned those back in December. And then we needed to establish how we moved up the other linemen to the new position that had been here and qualified for it. So we worked with personnel, finance, and audit, and the electric department, and finally worked through some issues. And what we have tonight is we need to make one adjustment, and that is to the electrical superintendent position, based off of the recommendations of the Personnel Finance Audit Committee and the department. And so that one adjustment to that takes care of everything, and then we can move everyone after tonight that needs to be moved. We can issue the bonuses that have been sitting around waiting since April that they're due, but until this was all resolved, we didn't issue anything out. So all that will go out after today, and this will resolve it. In regards to, well, let me stop there. Any questions in regards to the electrical side? Okay. In regards to the summer seasonal labor, this was just an item that was hanging over from our discussions this spring, personnel, finance, and audit. We had been brought forth by the Parks and Rec Department and anyone that has a summer laborer that's out actively working, and noting that the school district, who is our primary competitor for that labor, mainly college students that were students at Seward or Concordia students are left around for the summer, that are working here doing our cemetery work, golf work, and then parks work throughout, and public properties work. We also have a summer laborer down at the wastewater treatment plant that does tree trimming, weed spraying, mowing, goes out and does some more mowing at other offsites, water treatment plant, things like that. And so we noted that the school district paid substantially more than we did for that same exact job, same job description, competing for the same people every summer. And so everybody was telling us, well, we're gonna go work at the school because they're gonna pay us more. And so we kept getting, we needed 4, we got 3 because there's no one left. And so we want to be competitive, and so some people want to work at the golf course, but they're like, I can't take a $2 an hour cut, to help pay off my summer expenses and pay for school and whatever not. And so it was a recommendation by the department heads to bring that forward and see what the committee thought. The committee took a look at it and they said, yeah, we should be paying comparable to what the school district's paying and being competitive for summer labor. Thus the recommendation of the 1252. They recommended a one-step pay plan. So you have your first year people and then everybody else gets a 50% additional wage, because we don't keep them much longer than 2 or 3 years. But we have 9 steps. No one ever gets to step 9. So what was the purpose of having 9 steps? Because ultimately they're getting like 7-cent raises for being here a year. And so that was the other recommendation that came out of personnel, finance, and audit was, let's have less steps, reward the people that want to come back, that we don't have to retrain on equipment, because that's the only difference. The first year people, we have to start over. Here's where stuff's at. Here's how you train. Here's how you use the mowers. Here's where you mow at. This is the name of everything. And then the second year on, people are all trained up. So we don't.
Do you ever have anyone come more than 2 years?
We have a few. We have a regular that helps out at the golf course, but like my Parks and Rec staff is all new this year. Every one of them is new. So, and the year before, they were only here a year. My wastewater treatment plant one is new for this year. So the turnover's pretty high. Golf, if you like your summers off and you just want to do golf mowing, we have a pretty dedicated person out there. So, but our two of our other ones aren't. So, and then for instance, our seasonal summer labor at the cemetery resigned on us mid-May. So that was a conflict issue with some school issues and things like that with classes they were taking this summer. But we need a competitive wage to go out now in the middle of the season and try to get somebody back in. So that was the recommendation that came from the committee based on the request from department head and the administration. So that's where we're at with that one. So
How many summer seasonal spots do you have a golden number? Like you need 9 they can rotate between departments, or
We
you take
try,
as many as you can get, or?
usually we peg one for the cemetery, 3, Bill's kind of a different one, he's our regular one out there, but we usually have 2 more in addition at the golf course. And then Bob's crew will run 3 to 4, and then we'll have 1 with wastewater, water.
Occasionally street will have, not every year, but.
Yep, street doesn't have one right now. So,
So is that roughly 10,
yeah.
10 to 12?
So, this year we could use them. I don't think we have enough mowers to keep it, I mean, our problem this year is we don't have enough mowers to keep up with how fast the grass is growing in the parks, out at all these places, the cemetery, baseball fields, golf course. I mean, they're out mowing as fast as they can, and then they can't mow in this, that's the other issue, so.
So then in instances like this, when you can't mow, do you utilize them in other ways?
Yep.
To where they're still valuable?
They'll come in, they'll clean, they'll do maintenance work, a lot of moving when we have, like surplus property and things like that. Last summer when they cleaned out the whole upstairs and got rid of a lot of the old furniture, or brought furniture from other departments to bring in for the sale that we had on site to try and get rid of stuff. We used their crews to go move when we redid the flooring in the library last week. Bring that crew over in the morning, move everything off the floor, let the people come in at night, move everything back the next day. And we'll just utilize them anywhere we can.
I think they give them the option, I mean, if they don't wanna work today, I think, you know, they don't have to, I mean, it's not full-time work, so.
Perfect, yeah.
So, but right now it's, if we could have 50 of them when it's mower day, like 50 mowers, it would be good, because we just keep getting interrupted by the weather,
Yeah.
so.
Any other questions or comments? Just like to introduce the ordinance.
I'll introduce the ordinance.
An ordinance to provide for annual classification of officers and employees of the city of Seward, Nebraska, to update electric department and summer seasonal pay rates, to provide for longevity pay and payment of part-time employees, to provide for a date of such classification and pay ranges of compensation shall become effective, to provide for a publication in pamphlet form, to provide for a time when this ordinance shall take effect. The ordinance has been read by title and is designated as ordinance number 2019-20, and the title is hereby approved. Need a motion to dispense with statutory rule.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilkenbeck, Hubbard, Coleman, Singleton, Schmidt, Hendricks, motion carried.
Again, this is ordinance number 2019-20. Would anyone like to move that this ordinance be passed and adopted as read?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question is, shall ordinance number 2019-20 be finally passed and adopted? Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilkenbeck, Hubbard, Coleman, Singleton, Schmidt, Hendricks, motion carried.
This is the last ordinance for this evening. I need one final motion to make all the ordinances a part of the permanent record.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilkenbeck, Hubbard, Coleman, Singleton, Schmidt, Hendricks, motion carried.
Next item, number 15, consideration of acceptance of Seward County E911 interlocal budget. Greg.
Yes, as we do every year, we're required to make a vote and approval of the interlocal budget for E911 as part of our interlocal agreement. It'll be considered by us, Milford, and Seward County. And so we have Barb here tonight with us that can talk about the budget. The budget was approved, and John will correct me if I'm wrong, but it was approved at our last interlocal E911 meeting, and Barb can get into the specifics. I would note the one thing that's of note, that's big for this body that we've harped on for a while, is there is a staggered wage system built into this and recommended, correct Barb? That will allow for some seniority, that will allow for the ones right now under the current system, as we've talked about before, the person that's been here for a year is paid basically the same thing as the person that's been here 19 years. And so they've built in a system after their most recent wage study that they redid at the county. And I believe they're okay with what their results were from that, and so thus they've made a recommendation to adjust those wages. That is the predominant increase you see, and you know, a 6.13% increase. Almost all of that is the recommended adjustment in wages.
And,
But-
and as Barb can tell you as well, we've discussed in the past, it's hard filling some of these positions with fun, experienced people, and then once you train them, there's a lot of other options out there for them to go to, and so you end up losing the people, and what we're trying to avoid is becoming more or less a training ground for others who are looking to hire people who already have experience.
That's very true. In this particular budget, this year is the first year I think that the county has finally moved forward on a grade step plan. And one of the issues, when you see I think you each have a personnel sheet, you'll see that, just like you stated, they're all paid the same amount, whether they had 1 to 2 years or they had 15 to 20 years. They're paid the same amount of money per hour. And I don't know about you, but I think that's wrong, but they finally have moved in. I've got them step according to where the county has their grade and step for each one of them. There was some discussion as far as the deputy director's salary. It was noted, just in the minutes, it's not in our local agreement, that his salary should be 80% of mine. But they also came up with the rules, or the regulations, that you had to be a continuous employee. In other words, if you started 8 years ago, you had to work those full 8 years straight without quitting. Well, unfortunately, my deputy director did leave for about a year and then came back. So I'm still gonna work on that, but right now I think with the county approving this budget and the city of Milford approving it, I'll see how far I can get on it with the county. The other additional thing as far as personnel goes, I did put in a request for an additional dispatcher. The 23 years I've been the director, which has passed the city, my time with the city, I passed it by 1 year already, but I worked with the same number of people, or staff, that I've had when I started in '96. The calls and everything that are going up, I mean, everything keeps raising, and it's becoming a kind of a fight situation, not a fight, but impossible, because if somebody wants to take vacation, the county does not pay overtime in money, you have to take comp time, compensatory time. Well, when I do that, I end up giving the one the time off, but paying the other one his comp time to cover that shift that they're taking off. And it's just kind of a vicious circle going around. We're hoping we should have that resolved by this month, because they have opted to pay out the comp time anything over 50 hours, so I'm hoping that we can keep that down. Other than, like I said, the biggest was the personnel, the wages and stuff. There's some equipment and stuff that we are going to be purchasing, well, it's being installed as we speak. Seward County, which also includes the city and police department, in conjunction with York County, Saline County, and Butler County, we are more or less consolidating our CAD system and records management so that we can have interoperability through the 4 counties. And we haven't updated our CAD system since 2001. And I tell you right now, they're tearing the hair out in dispatch because it's not working too well today. Yes, sir.
Barb, just for the sake of the council, explain what CAD is.
Oh,
Because
I'm sorry,
it's
I was
not
gonna
what we
say,
think with other
Computer aided
CAD.
dispatch. It's where we put all of our calls for service. If you call in an animal complaint, an accident, what have you, we put your name and your address, and then we put the narrative in as to what happened. And then it shows what time we got the call, what time we dispatched the officers when they arrived, or the fire departments and what have you, when they arrived and when they cleared from the call. And then whatever the disposition was. And then the records management is simply where we enter our warrants in addition to entering them in NCIC. But it also has a database for all the callers and people that we have had contact with. kind of explain it in a kind of rough way.
You're not designing buildings or parks, is what you're saying.
No,
That's a
Different
different
cat.
well, you never know. But, we are in the process of getting that done. There, right now, if you look at the budget for this current year, I still have a few things to pay out. It's our end of our fiscal year this month, and I hope I have everything done, including the radio checks and stuff like that, getting that taken care of as well. And I think you're aware of what.
Yep.
Okay, yes. But I hope to have all that clarified, done, and over with, and start July 1, the new page. Do you have any questions?
Say Barbara, just more out of curiosity when I looked at your sheet here, everybody there is full-time, you don't have anybody
Yep.
who's a part-time?
Nobody's part-time. They're all 40-hour people. They work either a 4 10-hour shifts or 3 12-hour shifts, and then a 4-hour shift somewhere else in within the week.
Yes, John?
Are you gonna end up with any funds left on your budget?
A few. I'm hoping there'll be a few. I'm gonna check with the county clerk tomorrow, because I got everything in there. But what I didn't have in there was, a complete number for wages. But I should be I'm hoping.
So,
The cat.
if you have any money left, you might wanna explain to the council where that money goes.
I am told it goes into the general fund for the 911 center. And then, as far as the budget is concerned, she takes that money, puts it towards the bottom number, the main there, deducts whatever I have left over, deducts it off of that. Then whatever surcharge money that is from landline phones, she puts that towards this bottom line. And then that's where your percentages are figured out after all that's been done.
And that landline surcharge money has been going down,
Oh,
down,
definitely.
down.
I can tell you right now that, the Public Service Commission sent me a letter telling me that my percentage for wireless and landline and cell phones are now at 80%, landline is at 20%. That's how many phones that we have. So, yeah, it's gone down greatly. I mean, huge. When we first started, we had like 90,000. Now it's, I can't give you an actual figure, but
And not to get into this tonight, but kind of what John, I think, may have been hinting at, we do wanna have a broader conversation about the 911 board and the city's role in that, and how some of these decisions have been made in the past, and maybe just make sure that everyone's on the same page, and maybe even look at some proposals for how we can improve that moving forward. But that's just, I think, call it foreshadowing, do they call it in the business? Foreshadowing, things to come. So, but we don't need to get into that right now, but I think that's part of John's concern as well. Are there any other questions or comments on this item number 15?
I will
Yes.
make one more. When I mentioned surcharge, your wireless surcharge that you pay for your cell phones, I do get to use, now it's up to 80%, for specific items. The Public Service Commission is very hard on what I can use that money for. And I'm fortunate, I can use it for the CAD system, 80% of it, and I can use it for my mapping costs and stuff. Radios is absolutely no way, no how. They have a list of things that you can and cannot use it for, and radios are right on top, very first item, so.
Thank
That
you.
helps you guys understand a little bit why I'd like to be able to spend more of that money. I don't know, I was kinda surprised that they allowed CAD into it, but it has to be related to a 911 call. That's their theory. So,
Thank you. Any questions or comments, or entertain a motion?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Finding a cover, welcome back, Comfort, Colderman, Singleton, Schmidt, Hendrick, special.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 16, consideration of approval of final plans and contract documents for the 2019 Culvert Improvements Project and authorization to advertise for bids. Jake, welcome.
Good evening. So this is the culvert that is on the south levee adjacent to Highway 15, just south of the Blue River. So when we had our initial flood back in March, that levee basically gave way there and the culvert completely washed out. So we looked at doing some repairs there. No, sorry, let me back up. We were planning to replace that before the flood.
Yes.
So we had plans ready to go and everything, we actually had quotes. And after the flood is when that levee completely was breached and changed that project essentially from somewhere around $25,000 was the quote that we had, and now I'm looking at just the added dirt and added work to do, it's probably closer to 80 grand. But it more than likely would be covered by FEMA funds when those become available. So that's why we're kind of taking a step back, going through this process so that we check all the boxes we need to get our FEMA funds.
Thank you, Jake. Any questions or comments, Jake?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Jake, does that culvert allow water to go like toward the river but then not
Correct.
back?
Correct. There is a flap gate on the north end so that water can go from south to north towards the river, but it cannot back up from the river back into the farm. Although what we saw from the flood is that it can certainly enter from the west side. That levee does only go so far. And when you see significant flood waters, it backs up and can come in from the west side, so.
Any other questions or comments? Would I entertain a motion?
Move to approve the final plan?
Second.
A motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Finding a cover, welcome back, Comfort, Colderman, Singleton, Schmidt, Hendrick, special. Carried.
Item 17, consideration of a resolution designating city items as surplus.
That's just what it says, we have a few items that we need to surplus, they're listed in the resolution.
Any questions or comments?
I'll introduce resolution.
All right, the resolution has been introduced and is designated as resolution number 2019-19. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
I'll move,
Second.
We have a motion and a second, please register your votes.
because everybody needs
Please display the votes.
to videotape everything.
Yes.
Finding a cover, welcome back, Comfort, Colderman, Singleton, Schmidt, Hendrick, special. Carried.
I'm using it somewhere that wants to-
I know, I was like, looking at this list, it's just, I love it.
Item 18, city administrator report.
Big things coming up. We got the 4th of July. We will meet on June 20th, this Thursday, with the 4th of July committee and relevant department heads to go over our planning and make sure we're all ready to go for the 4th of July. A lot of people are doing lots of trainings and things like that this summer, especially with the weather being as it is. So I'm just trying to knock some of that stuff out. We are ordering the playground equipment and the shelter system that will go into Tim Wake Memorial Park. So you gotta use that a lot now. And so Bob and his crew has been working with the Wake family who helped donate the funds to pay for all that playground equipment along with city funds. So we have that on order here soon and install it late this summer. Working away at, we just got baseball, softball tournaments every single weekend almost, T-ball's going on. Golf is having league when we can. We had our golf meeting today, so we went over all the projects that we're gonna tee up, pun intended, for the Parks and Rec Committee meeting in July. So we have all those items that we've kind of gathered up together to prepare to get some recommendations on those and then bring the final product to you late July to get us ready for budget, but we kind of need to know on those park things now. And then we finished up the dam project. There's one slight thing left to do in the golf course that was part of the stormwater system for Fairway Woods. That was completely formed. We're gonna throw in some riprap. Got quotes for that today and a delivery date. And then Dan Kaler will go in with his crew. They will spread seed it and then put down erosion control, and he'll start getting the grass going on that and to camouflage it in. So thrown by when you're down there. Other than that, I can answer any other questions you have on anything in my report if you have a question.
John?
The road over there in the new addition by Augusta, the middle concrete part, it's only like a alley compared to the road to the north.
They designed it to be similar to like Fallbrook with little narrower, roads.
Okay.
Well, the garages are gonna have.
It
Garage.
is like,
Yeah,
it is
there's
like
no-
an alley. I mean,
It's basically an alley.
It's a service road.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
We did finish up, I think we got 2 streetlights to install in Fairway Woods, the first phase of it. But other than that, we are out, and so those will be available for building permits, and I know they're working on sales now, trying to get people to buy property. So that was the last thing they're waiting on. They can't sell them until we're allowed to issue building permits on them. So that's what's going on there. Trying to keep up with road repairs too. As you know, that's the other one, North Columbia, that mill and overlay project's going on. So right now, they're actively working on the ADA ramps for the different corners and also working on some of the tapers around those. So I'll be working on that. We had a conversation with them, me and Jake, well, mostly Jake had the conversation, but I told Jake to go do it in regards to their signage. Both on Saturday and Monday, they had been leaving signs out that said work going on in the middle of Columbia, but they were gone for the day. And so we just recommunicated with them, when you're done, as long as you're not waiting to cover up the mill and overlay where you can't drive on it at all, if you feel like it's safe to go through, take those off, because that's a big bottleneck. So we'll just continue to work with them throughout the project to get that done here.
Hey Greg, and if we can't talk about this, maybe we need to toss it onto an agenda. Fairway Woods, and obviously if they're getting ready to sell lots, you know, we had discussions during the whole development process of, there's no driveways facing Hillcrest because they're not putting driveways there. And so it was discussed that once we start seeing homes built in there, that we're gonna remove parking on Hillcrest, because Hillcrest is generally a through street. It's a artillery or whatever we call it.
arterial.
Thank you. For traffic. So I started thinking through construction process and the mess that we have at the end of Augusta with construction going on. Is the intent that they're gonna have to keep their equipment on that service road, or are we gonna have all these huge trucks sitting in the middle of Hillcrest during construction?
That, it depends on where they're building at. That depends on building permits. I mean, we have our project going on right now, and they're sitting on the side of the road on Seward Street with their equipment. So, I mean, if we need to dictate to them where we want them to be, I don't know if they can be on that service road. Jake would have a better idea on that one. So,
That's the school bus route and everything else right there.
so we can deal with that when we get into building permits and talk to Ed about it, so.
Any other questions?
Going back to that too, because even Bauer Underground, even where I live, is causing a kind of a cluster because they're parking their big trucks and there's not only enough for one car to go around Iankin. There's been some close calls there. Because they're underground boring. Maybe that's something we need to look at too or discuss further in the future.
So we can work with Jake. I mean, they can have construction easement over unused lots too, if they need stage on those. We can work through Jake and Ed, figure that out, so.
How's the mosquito spraying going?
Good. We'll go out, I mean, they can't do it in the rain, but
Yeah.
when the conditions are right this week, they'll go out again this week and do it again, is what Mel reported. He did it. Their crew did it last week. We have 2 sprayers now, so we can cover it. When we have the right conditions, we can get 2 guys out at once. So if one night's all we got, we can try to get the whole town in one shot. So we'll just keep going.
Horrible.
We'll keep, we all should expect that based on the weather conditions though.
Absolutely.
So they also did go treat all the standing water areas that we were concerned about with the tablets. So they threw the tablets in the standing water areas. But now they'll be, half of those areas have been washed away by now, just due to the nature of where most of them are. So we'll just keep, we're trying to do our best to keep up with it.
Any other questions or comments? Entertain a motion to accept.
Motion to accept the report?
Second. A motion and a second, to register your votes. Please pay the votes.
Welcome back, Campus Cullen and Singleton, County Commission.
Do you have any future requests for council agenda items or administrative action? Yes.
I do.
Mhm.
Is there anything that we can do about delivery trucks in the downtown business district? As far as what times or what street access is or anything on, I don't even know what day it was. I sat behind a Cisco delivery truck that was parked on 6th Street. at approximately 10-something and was held up for 35 minutes because he was like literally parked behind my vehicle
Oh, you couldn't get out?
in the parking stall. I was very close to jumping the curb. And so I just didn't know if there was something that we can put into force that those delivery trucks can only come in a certain hour, or have to park in alleys, or because it was getting close to the Hughes Brothers 11 o'clock lunch hour, and it was holding a backup because there were cars waiting as multiple cars were going this way, and it was gonna cause a
We
pretty
can
nuts
look and see
circle.
what other communities do. I know like, from my own experience in Lincoln, the Haymarket is always a really bad place just because it's also not real wide streets, and you have all kinds of delivery trucks that seem to wait until you're going to lunch and then they stop in the middle of the street, and I don't know that there's much that can be done, but we can look and see if there's time restrictions on delivery and.
Like it can only be there for 15 minutes or something, you know, some
I
kind of.
know like when Fastenal was doing it, they had their delivery times that they did before 6 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
but that was their truck and
Sure.
all of those kind of things, so I just didn't know if the other cities had, like, if you're delivering something, you can only deliver between X, Y, Z. I just feel like that
Yeah.
11 o'clock hour on that street is just not, or if there was like a designated location to where you might have to take a few extra steps
Mhm.
to do whatever, but.
The other ones that the alleys just downtown for us are not, I think that was a semi-trailer, correct?
Yeah, it was a
You
Cisco,
cannot
yeah.
get a semi-trailer, make any of the turns back out of the alleys in downtown, so we can't put them through alleys, for something that size. Just noting
It'd be
that.
fun to watch you try though.
No.
Any other future requests? If not, then announcement of upcoming events, Jonathan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So we have our upcoming Chamber Luncheon, Professional Development Luncheon about having tough conversations with dignity this Thursday, the 20th. Following Monday, the 24th, we have our coffee and contacts at Tenneco. You're all welcome to attend. On Wednesday, June 26th, to make you aware, the county is going through their comprehensive planning process. I know there was a lot of great community support through the city's comprehensive planning process, so I would encourage you to tell your constituents, encourage them to participate. On Wednesday, June 26th is the Seward County's Comprehensive Plan Open House here in Seward at the Civic Center.
Time?
5 to 8. Saturday, June 29th, we have two exciting events here in Seward. Seward Safety Day, which I know the police department and fire department are graciously participating in, and then also the William H. Seward statue dedication on the courthouse square. So I encourage you to participate in both of those upcoming events and let your constituents know. Of course, the 4th of July is happening, and so hopefully you have your massive posters taped up in your windows to let people know about those upcoming events. And then as of today, the schooler groundbreaking is